Franz Wagner was the 8th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, and the Orlando Magic have picked up one of the best European prospects in this year's class, as he is set to be a very good small forward for them moving forward. Now first, let's talk about what his impact will be on this team next year. He is currently projected to be about the 3rd small forward on the depth chart, but I expect he will rise up that list very quick, as Gary Harris and Terrence Ross are the names ahead of him, and they are both A, not young core pieces to this team, and B, expiring contracts throughout the season, and so I would expect that they are both going to be dealt before the deadline. When that will be remains to be seen, but whenever they are dealt, Franz Wagner's role will continue to improve, and they're not going to give Gary Harris and Terrence Ross absolutely massive minutes, stunt the growth of a lottery pick that they just took in Franz Wagner. The Orlando Magic are only focusing on the future right now. They're not going to care about giving Gary Harris and Terrence Ross a ton of minutes, especially Gary Harris, who they just recently acquired. Terrence Ross, of course, is a little bit more. They'll be a little bit more loyalty inclined to give him a bit more of a role, but for Gary Harris, he'll be a little bit more pushed to the wayside and might be one that gets dealt a little bit earlier than Terrence Ross does. As far as how he could project to play for the Orlando Magic and in the NBA long term, he's not going to be someone who athletically jumps off the board for you. He's not going to be someone who is an absolute freak of nature athletically, but he still is a solid athlete with decent mobility. He is 6'9", potentially has grown now to 6'10" with a wingspan at 6'11", so he has a lot of length. He's going to be able to guard with his mobility pretty much 1 through 5. 1 you could debate, and 5 you could debate, but as far as pick and rolls and switching on to players, he's going to be able to do it all. He has the lateral quicks, and he also has the strength to guard 4s. The strength to guard big 5s is still a bit of concern, but at 6'9", 220, he still can put on a bit of strength, and if he is a bit closer to 6'10", can put on a little strength. He's pretty much going to be able to guard anyone off the switches and be able to hold his own. That ability to be that strong in the defensive end is going to be something that's very valuable to him for the Orlando Magic and whatever teams that have him moving forward. Franz Wagner is also a very good ball handler and playmaker. Someone of his size, he can pick up the ball off a rebound, get the ball off the court, and play make extremely well. He can even run the pick and roll as the on-ball guy and be a good playmaker in that sense. He has a lot of options as being a playmaker for this team and moving forward. I think he's going to be very good in that sense. He's a very underrated playmaker who can definitely be someone that can develop his handle into being someone that is a point forward. As I mentioned, transition offense is going to be very good for him as well. He's also very good on the catch and shoot. He can be someone that can space the floor a little bit for you. He just doesn't need the ball in his hands on the offensive end. As I mentioned, he can be a pick and roll guy, but on a team with as many guards as Orlando have, having him being able to be a good catch and shoot guy is going to be important. And that's going to be very valuable for this team moving forward. It does need to get a little bit more consistent as far as his three-point shooting goes, but it's definitely going to be a spot where I think he'll continue to improve, and it might not be something where he's an extremely positive three-point shooter year 1, but long-term I think he's going to develop himself into an above-average three-point shooter. Offensive weaknesses, as I mentioned, his ball handle is not great. It's fine right now, but I think he can get to a point where he can improve his ball handle to being a point forward. That's where you're going to get the best out of Franz Wagner. Remains to be seen if he can get there. But that's really the biggest thing in his offensive game right now that's going to be able to determine whether he is a point forward or just a bit more of a 3-and-D type guy. Another thing that he definitely needs to work on as well if he wants to fit that point forward mold is his finishing at the rim. I think a big part of that is going to come with him getting a little bit more strength, because I think right now that's a bit of a weakness for him. He doesn't have that speed to be explosive, so if he can get a little bit more strength to finish a bit better at the rim, which he'll hopefully get to do to be a better switcher on bigs on the defensive end, that's really just going to make him an elite guy as far as finishing and a point forward role if he can improve that handle and being able to switch on to bigs. As I mentioned, pick and roll defense is going to be good for him. On-ball defense is going to be good for him. And an off-ball defense is going to be good for him. He's really just going to be a very good defender, especially if he can add a little bit more strength. I think he has the potential to be an elite defender at the NBA level. I think that's where the most upside and excitement has to be for him, as well as a bit of playmaking. That's really where it's at for him. He's going to be very versatile. He can guard up and down positions. Pick and roll is going to be very good for him. Franz Wagner has the potential to be an elite defender with offensive upside if he can figure out his playmaking and add a little bit more strength with a little bit handle. That being said, Franz Wagner really has a lot of ceiling. He's going to be a good defensive player, no doubt about it. I think he can be a respectable 3-and-D guy at the worst, but I think he also has the upside to be a very good point forward, someone who could even fit like a Pascal Siakam type mold in that type of sense. You can pick and roll while you can be the ball handler in a pick and roll. You can defend pretty much 1 through 5, switch on to everything, and can be a respectable playmaker. He could be a little bit worse than Siakam. He could be a little bit better than Siakam, and is going to have a little bit more length than Siakam. And that's a pretty darn good player comparison, but that's what I think of when I watch Franz Wagner and I hear and see what he is good at. So that's what I think about Franz Wagner moving forward. I think his role is going to be a bit minute starting off next year, simply due to the fact of the depth of players they have on this Orlando Magic team. But as some of the vets get moved, whether that is via just losing them via free agency next year or getting traded away throughout the season or at the deadline, Franz Wagner's role is going to become more pronounced and will become an important part of this Orlando Magic team as they start to rebuild past the Nikola Vucevic era. With that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section on Franz Wagner moving forward, how you think he could fare for the Orlando Magic next season as well as down the road. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.